Hello, everyone. Uh, this session is going to focus on equity, justice, and inclusion, and I'm sure it's a topic that you're very familiar with at this point. I'm hoping it is. That would be a very good thing. So, I think the other thing that I want to note real quick is please know that even though I might be calling these PLCs, this certainly is appropriate for larger professional development. So, whatever language I'm using, just make sure it applies to you. just modify it. Hear it how you want to hear it. Okay. So this the size of the group is not something that I'm trying to control for. So if you need to modify this, by all means do so. Okay. Equity, justice, and inclusion. So these are terms that I'm sure you're very familiar with. I will preface it by saying this. We are going to do a lot more work with this in more critical ways, going down territory that I don't think you've been to before. So this session is just a quick introduction, and I'll try to keep it short, as short as I can, and just know that there's more coming that's not probably the typical stuff that you've been hearing. Okay, so where are we? This is our map, and I'll make sure I show this at the beginning of every session so that you can see where we're at, right? We have thriving planning and issues of thriving, and then the blue arrow section. So we're in that area, right? So think of this as a map. The whole idea is to go through all the parts of pedagogy and talk about how thriving applies to that. Okay, so right now we're in this sort of land of issues of thriving, things like social justice, for instance. Okay, so we're getting there. What do you think these words mean? Right, so you're, I'm sure, very familiar with inclusion. I'm sure you already know that inclusion means just what it says, just including people. People of all backgrounds, people of differences, and that differences are shouldn't be tied to things like privilege, and we need to investigate our own whatever biases we might have, and that inclusion really needs to be fully inclusive. And obviously we have a pattern of exclusion, which and that's been driven by lots of issues, right? Racism, classism, sexism, ableism, religionism, genderisms, and heteronormativity, and all those things are exclusive. Obviously, the opposite of that would be inclusive. So equity, I'm sure you've seen this paired with other word, really the other word, equality. So equality is what you see on the left. All three of them are giving each a box to stand on, right? And you can see what the outcome is there. And then on the right, this is an equitable situation because the boxes are piled in the right way so everybody can equally see the game. Now, there's been critiques of this, and we will get there. So I'm just so you understand, I'm not presenting this unproblematically. I'm very aware of what's out there, and we're going to go there, right? But right now, we're just sort of starting from scratch to make sure we have that kind of background. All right, so equity has more to do with the kind of resources that are provided to folks so that we match their needs. Social justice. So you see the version of equity in the top there, right, where the tree is bending over and the person with the shorter ladder can still reach, and the person with the taller ladder can reach as well, right? Justice is about sort of straightening that tree back up as best we can. So putting in supports, what are structural things that fix that particular system, right? The system is still in place. I think I just want to note that, a little bit of foreshadowing there. So justice right now tends to be connected to structural changes within the system, but not always system changes. Interesting. We'll get there, okay? So here you go, you see them sort of collectively, and I know many folks are going through professional developments where they're spending many hours on that, and I just ran through I ran through in just a few minutes. So I'm not doing this topic justice. Ha ha ha! Oh my goodness. Uh, but we have much more to do with it. So at this particular moment, and you certainly can consider any other professional development work that you've had around these topics. You know, as we go through the questions, let's consider everything that you have, right? Don't pretend like you have to just be at the beginning. So, that being said, based on how these terms are currently framed and contextualized, to what extent do they aim at intended outcomes? Well, that's like a what? I gotta. All right, stop, slow it down. Here's the question. Uh, they're all very well intended, right? They're very well intended, and I fully support people who are doing this kind of work. I think this is we need this in our society. So good intentions are there. If we look at current society and we take those good intentions of each one of these and let's get to a point where these are doing pretty well. Do we actually get the things that we're intending for? Is the question. That's a tough question, right? So, does social justice within the system actually turn into real social justice? Probably seems like an obnoxious question, so I apologize for that. But wherever you're at right now, that's the kind of discussion that I'm asking for you to have. Okay, so you'll see in the prompts in just a second. So another way of sort of restating this is, if these terms were fully enacted in the context of our systems right now, our current systems, what are the goals and what are the intended outcomes? So, okay, you don't have to write that down just yet because we have prompts for discussion that are doing that too. So, number one, what does opportunity look like in our society currently? So, opportunity. And how different would it be if inclusion, equity, and social justice were fully present in our society? Okay, so that question is getting at what I was just saying in the last slide. So the focus here is on opportunity. Number two, it's a very close connection to the first one. So if inclusion, equity, and social justice were fully present in our society, what would people have then that they currently don't have now? Now, you might look at those two questions and go, those are really similar. What are you doing there, Dr. Love? Yeah, fine. So if you want to sort of work with them together, that's fine. What I'm really asking you to do is sort of tease out the word opportunity and teasing out what people would actually have. Those are not always the same things. You can have opportunity and not have stuff, and you can certainly have stuff, but you would have had the opportunity to get it, one would hope, right? It would work out that way. Anyway, discuss them. If they blur into one another, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just do what you will with it, okay? So, have those discussions. 3, based on the first 2, would those situations be thriving situations? So whatever you talk about with 1 and 2, and you sort of get to the point of what people have and the opportunities they have to get there, is it thriving? In other words, social justice to what end? What are the outcomes? Are those outcomes thriving outcomes? That makes sense. And then last but not least here is, what do you think is the core desire why exclusion, inequity, and social injustice, so the opposite of the 3, what do you think the core desire is to keep creating those? Where did they come from? Why are they still here? And what is it about our human species that keeps them, unfortunately, alive? Right? So what do you think is the core desire why exclusion, inequity, and social justice exists in the human species? Maybe exist. Anyway, yep, it's been one of those days. So there's your prompts, and So spend time discussing those prompts. Now, the activity, first, open a new shared file for this session. Now, I'm giving you sort of the pathway here, so you should have a shared file for the main folder, Thriving Planning, a subfolder, Issues of Thriving, and then the file name, 01, Equity, Justice, and Inclusion. Okay? And I give you the 01, or I'm asking you to put the 01 in there because it'll keep things a bit more organized. It won't go alphabetical. Okay? Number 2, in addition to the brief discussions about your thoughts, to discussion prompts, right? Those 1 through 4. What patterns came up among your colleagues during those discussions? Identify at least 3 of the most important patterns and record them in an electronic document that you can all access. That's the number 1. And then keep them organized by discussion prompts. So, however you want to do that is fine. I asked for 3. I know there's 4 questions there, but I also know 1 and 2 kind of blur into one another. So, yeah, I'm not being super picky here. Just record as a group. Just record the things that you feel are like the most important ones that came up. Okay, or the major categories that came up. However you want to do it is fine. So, then we're in the last one here. In a whole group setting, if practical or smaller groups, try to keep them large. Okay, so that's up to you. I don't know what your group sizes are, but I'm not asking for small groups here, super small groups. So do what you can with that. Discuss how exclusion, inequity, and social injustice are connected to experiences in your school district and town or city, and record those answers. That's it. All right. We shall. Just so you know, what you're recording are things that I'm going to have to go back to at some point in time. Okay, not all of it, but definitely some of it. So that's it. All right. Well, I will stop there and go and have wonderful discussions. All right. See you in the next one. Bye.